The ECS horizon cut through space, its sleek form reflecting the distant sunlight as it approached Jupiter. Captain Hannah Park stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the giant planet growing larger on the main screen. Jupiter's swirling storms created patterns of red, orange, and cream that never ceased to amaze her, even after 12 previous missions. "Status report," she said, turning to her crew. "All systems functioning at optimal levels, Captain," replied First Officer Ben, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "We'll reach observation point Theta in exactly 43 minutes." Hannah nodded, satisfied. The Horizon was Earth's pride, a research vessel equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had developed. Its primary mission was to study Jupiter's changing atmospheric conditions, data crucial for the terraforming projects underway on several moons in the solar system. "Communications, prepare our approach notification," Hannah ordered. Ta Kim, the communications officer, adjusted his headset. A young man with a reputation for precision, Ta had served with Hannah for 3 years. "Channel open, Captain," he confirmed. Hannah straightened her uniform. "Control, this is Captain Park of the ECS Horizon. We are on schedule and approaching observation point Theta." There was a brief pause before Earth responded. "Confirmed, Horizon. Your approach vectors look good. Check in when you reach the coordinates." The bridge hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-trained crew. Science Officer Sun reviewed the sensor arrays while Navigation Officer Yuna made minor course corrections. The mission was routine. They would spend 3 months collecting atmospheric data before returning to Earth. As they neared their destination, Engineer G approached the captain. "I've been getting some unusual readings from the quantum drive," he said, showing her a datapad. "Nothing critical, but there's a pattern I can't quite explain." Hannah studied the numbers with a slight frown. "Run a level 3 diagnostic. Let's be cautious." Jay nodded and returned to his station. Moments later, the ship entered the designated observation area in Jupiter's orbit. "We've reached point Theta," announced Yuna. "Holding position." Tag opened the channel to Earth again. "Control, we're beginning our approach to observation point Theta. All systems nominal." He waited for acknowledgement, but instead, his console flashed red. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of interference." Before Hannah could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered. The main view screen distorted, Jupiter's image stretching and twisting unnaturally. "What's happening?" Hannah demanded, gripping her chair as the ship suddenly shuddered. "Unknown energy signature directly ahead," Sun called out, her voice rising. "It's not in any of our databases." The space before them seemed to bend, forming what looked like a hole in reality itself, a perfect circle of absolute darkness. "Evasive maneuvers," Hannah ordered, but Yuna's frantic movements at the navigation console had no effect. "Controls aren't responding. We're being pulled toward it." Hannah hit the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, braced for impact." The horizon trembled violently as it approached the strange phenomenon. The hull groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. Crew members held on to whatever they could as gravity seemed to shift direction repeatedly. "Send emergency signal to Earth," Hannah shouted over the noise. Tay's fingers flew across his station. "Transmitting distress beacon now." His eyes widened. "No confirmation. I don't think it's getting through." The darkness enveloped the ship's bow, consuming it section by section. The bridge lights failed completely, plunging the crew into darkness broken only by the emergency lighting. "Captain," Ben called out, his face illuminated by the red glow. "Whatever this is, it's pulling us in completely." Hannah watched as the view screen showed the last glimpse of normal space. Jupiter hanging in the distance, before it too vanished, replaced by absolute nothingness. "Stay together," were her last words as the horizon was swallowed entirely. Back on Earth, the monitoring station lost all contact with the horizon at precisely 15:42 Earth Standard Time. The sudden silence triggered immediate alarm protocols. Within hours, Commander Jun Lee assembled a search and rescue operation. Vessels from across the solar system were redirected to Jupiter. For weeks, they combed the area where the horizon had last been detected, finding nothing, not even debris. Jun refused to give up. He extended the search again and again, pushing his team beyond exhaustion. They have to be somewhere, he insisted during planning sessions. A ship doesn't simply vanish. But after 3 months of searching, pressure mounted to end the mission. Resources were limited, and other operations needed attention. At the final press conference, Jun stood before the cameras, his face showing the strain of sleepless nights. "The ECS Horizon is our most advanced vessel," he stated firmly. "Hannah and her crew are the best we have. We will continue to monitor the region and follow any new leads." But there were no leads to follow. The horizon had disappeared without a trace. Years passed. The incident became required study at the Space Academy, a cautionary tale about the unknown dangers lurking in space. Theories ranged from equipment failure to exotic matter interaction. Some even suggested alien involvement, though such ideas remained on the fringes of scientific discussion. 5 years after the disappearance, Lieutenant Hyun Kang sat at her monitoring station at Neptune Outpost. The lonely post was often considered punishment duty, but Hyun appreciated the quiet. Her job was simple: track objects entering the outer solar system and classify them according to standard protocols. Her shift was nearly over when the alert sounded. The scanning system had detected an object moving at remarkable speed, far faster than any known human or natural object. But what caught her attention wasn't just the speed, it was the trajectory. The object was heading directly toward Earth. As she magnified the image, Hyun's heart nearly stopped. Despite obvious modifications to its structure, the ship's profile was unmistakable. It was the horizon. "Sir," she called to her supervisor, her voice barely above a whisper, "I think you need to see this." The signal from Neptune Outpost reached Earth's Central Command within minutes. Emergency protocols activated across all defense networks as the unidentified vessel crossed Uranus's orbit at speeds that defied conventional physics. Every available telescope and sensor array focused on the approaching object. Admiral One stood in the bustling control center, watching as the first clear images appeared on the main screen. His breath caught in his throat. "It can't be," he whispered. The ship displayed the unmistakable identification markers of the ECS Horizon. The registration numbers clearly visible along what had once been a standard Earth vessel hull. But everything else about the ship had transformed. Where there had once been sleek metal panels and angular lines, now there flowed what appeared to be living material. The hull rippled with patterns that resembled both circuit boards and organic tissue, shifting subtly as if breathing. "Run full spectrum analysis," Admiral One ordered, his voice regaining authority. The technicians worked frantically, directing every type of scan available toward the approaching vessel. One by one, they reported back with increasing confusion. "Radar bounces off, but gives contradictory distance readings. Lidar beams they're just disappearing when they hit the hull. Quantum resonance scanners show impossible readings, like the ship exists partially in another dimension." Admiral One's face hardened. "Deploy intercept drones. Keep them at safe distance. I want visual confirmation." As the situation unfolded, Director Jin Park was summoned from his home at midnight. As head of the Space Exploration Division, any matter concerning the long-lost horizon fell under his jurisdiction. He arrived at headquarters just as the drones transmitted their first images. "It's definitely the horizon," he confirmed, studying the footage. But what happened to it? The military command quickly convened an emergency session of the Earth Defense Council. Representatives from all major nations gathered, faces grim with concern about the approaching anomaly. Director Park stood at the central podium, the weight of responsibility evident in his posture. Despite having rushed directly from bed, he appeared composed in his hastily donned uniform. "The vessel will reach Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours," he began. "We've confirmed it is indeed the ECS Horizon. though dramatically altered in appearance and capabilities. Its propulsion method defies our current understanding of physics. General Sue, a stern woman who headed Earth's Pacific Defense Command, interrupted. How can we be certain this is actually the Horizon? It could be an alien craft using the identification to approach without immediate hostility. We considered that possibility, Director Park replied. However, 20 minutes ago, we established communication with the vessel. He paused, allowing his next words to sink in. Captain Hannah Park is still in command. A murmur spread through the chamber. That's impossible, General Sue stated flatly. The Horizon disappeared 5 years ago. Even if by some miracle they survived, their supplies would have been exhausted years ago. Director Park nodded in acknowledgement of the logical objection. Nevertheless, we've confirmed through voice analysis and personal verification codes that it is indeed Captain Park. Furthermore, she claims the entire crew is alive and well. The chamber erupted in questions and demands. Director Park raised his hands for silence. I understand your concerns. That's why I've asked Captain Park to address this council directly. He signaled to the technical team. Screens throughout the chamber activated, and the face of Captain Hannah Park appeared. The assembled leaders fell silent. She looked exactly as she had in her last official photograph 5 years earlier. Not a day older, her black hair still cut in the same practical style, her captain's uniform perfectly maintained. But her eyes had changed. They held a depth that hadn't been there before, as if she had witnessed things beyond human comprehension. Members of the Earth Defense Council, she began, her voice calm and measured. I understand your confusion and concern. 5 years have passed for you since the Horizon disappeared near Jupiter. For my crew and me, the experience has been different. She paused, seemingly searching for words that could bridge the gap between her experience and their understanding. We encountered something in space, something beyond our previous conception of reality. It changed us. It changed our ship. We have been elsewhere, learning, growing, understanding. The council members watched in stunned silence as she continued. We've come home, she said simply. But we bring warning as well as gifts. Earth is not alone in the universe, and not all that exists beyond our solar system is benevolent. General Sue leaned forward. Are you saying you've made contact with hostile aliens, Captain? I'm saying we gained knowledge of threats that humanity is currently unprepared to face, Hannah replied. But we've also gained the means to prepare. Director Park cleared his throat. Captain Park has requested permission to bring the Horizon into Earth orbit. Before we make that decision, are there any immediate dangers we should be aware of? Hannah's expression remained serene. Our ship's new configuration might trigger your defense systems. I assure you, we pose no threat to Earth. Quite the opposite. But I understand your caution. She gestured off-screen, and the view changed to show what appeared to be the Horizon's bridge. The layout was recognizable, but everything seemed to be made of the same flowing, partially translucent material as the hull. Crew members moved about, performing duties at stations that had no visible controls. They simply placed their hands on surfaces that responded to their touch with flowing patterns of light. As you can see, my crew is intact. We are still human, though changed. We request a face-to-face meeting to explain what has happened and what is coming. The council chamber fell silent as the transmission ended. The implications were staggering, not just the return of the lost ship, but the suggestion of advanced technology and knowledge of other intelligent life. Director Park looked around at the shaken faces of Earth's leaders. We need to make a decision. The Horizon will reach Earth in less than 6 hours. After 3 days of tense negotiations, Earth's leadership reached a compromise. The Horizon would be allowed to approach, but only as far as Mars orbit. There, a quarantine station had been hastily repurposed to host the first contact team. The station, a rotating ring structure that normally processed cargo and personnel, now buzzed with frantic activity. Scientists set up advanced monitoring equipment. Security teams installed weapons systems they secretly suspected would be useless. Medical personnel prepared isolation protocols. Director Jin Park watched the preparations from the station's observation deck. He had argued forcefully for this meeting against significant opposition. If he was wrong about the Horizon's intentions, history would remember him harshly. "Director, the team is assembled," announced his assistant. Jin nodded and made his way to the briefing room. The 12-person delegation represented Earth's best minds: quantum physicists, xenobiologists, military strategists, and linguistic experts. But Jin's eyes fixed on Special Envoy Mina Cho, who stood apart from the others. 5 years ago, Mina had been planning her wedding to Captain Hana Park. The day the Horizon disappeared, Mina had been reviewing their honeymoon options. Now she waited with perfect composure, though Jin noticed how tightly she gripped the datapad in her hands. "The Horizon will dock in 30 minutes, Jin announced. "Remember, we observe first. We gather data. We evaluate risks. Only then do we engage deeply." The team nodded, but tension filled the room. They would be the first humans to interact with whatever the Horizon had become. When the ship finally connected with the station's docking port, everyone held their breath. The airlock cycle began automatically. Green lights flashed, indicating successful pressure matching. "They're coming aboard," reported the security chief through Jin's earpiece. The inner door slid open. Captain Hana Park stepped through first, followed by 3 crew members: Navigator Sung, Engineer Wu, and Science Officer Sun. They wore what appeared to be standard Earth Space Command uniforms, but the fabric moved subtly, as if alive. "Director Park," Hannah said, extending her hand. "Thank you for meeting us." Jin hesitated only briefly before shaking her hand. It felt human, warm, solid, yet somehow more than that, as if additional information transferred through the contact. "Captain," he replied formally. "These are extraordinary circumstances." Hannah nodded, then turned to Mina. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. "After initial assessments, we request permission to show you our ship," Hannah said, returning her attention to Jin. "Words cannot adequately explain what we've become." 6 hours of rigorous testing followed. The returned crew submitted to medical scans, psychological evaluations, and detailed questioning. The results left Earth's scientists baffled. Physically, the crew appeared human, yet their cellular structure contained unknown elements that seemed to shift under observation. Their brain activity showed patterns never before recorded in humans. Finally, Jin made the decision: "We'll visit the Horizon." The delegation followed Captain Park through the connecting tunnel. At the threshold of the ship, Jin paused. The entrance appeared normal, but something about the space beyond seemed to bend in ways his eyes couldn't quite process. "It's safe," Hannah assured him. "Your perception will adjust." One by one, the delegation members stepped aboard. Gasps and murmurs of amazement followed as they entered what should have been a standard airlock, but instead opened into a vast chamber that logically couldn't fit within the ship's external dimensions. "How is this possible?" asked Professor Kang, the quantum physicist. "The internal volume exceeds the external boundaries by factors off." "Space works differently here," Navigator Sung explained. He approached what appeared to be a solid wall, and simply walked through it as if it were air. Moments later, he returned the same way. "What looks solid may not be. What looks empty may contain worlds." Engineer Wu demonstrated even more impossible feats. He held out his empty hands, concentrated briefly, and a complex geometric object formed from nothing. A perfect model of Earth's solar system, floating and spinning above his palms. "Matter responds to our intentions now," he explained. "We can reshape it, create it, direct it." The delegation followed Captain Park deeper into the ship, where they found other crew members engaged in activities that defied physics as Earth understood it. Some worked at stations with no visible controls. Others manipulated holographic displays with mere gestures. Jin felt his world tilting on its axis, If what he was seeing was real, and all his instruments confirmed it was, humanity's understanding of reality was fundamentally incomplete. The tour ended at what Hannah called the bridge, though it bore little resemblance to any command center Jin had ever seen. The space pulsed with subtle light patterns that seemed to communicate information directly to the mind. "Now," Hannah said, "I believe you have questions." Jin struggled to find where to begin. "What happened to you? To your ship?" Hannah gestured to a central area where the light patterns formed a kind of seat. "We encountered an intelligence while studying Jupiter. They called themselves the Guardians. They exist in dimensions we can't naturally perceive. They rewrote us, our ship, our understanding." "Are you still human?" Jin asked bluntly. "We're human," Science Officer Sun answered, "but more than we were. Enhanced. Evolved." Mena stepped forward, speaking for the first time since the Horizon docked. "Why?" she asked simply, her voice carrying years of pain. "Why did they do this to you? Why did they take you from us?" The question hung in the air. Hannah's expression softened as she looked at her former fiancé. "Because humanity is in danger," she replied gently. "The collectors are coming. They harvest developing civilizations that reach our level of technology. They've done it thousands of times before." A chill ran through the delegation. Jin stepped closer. "What are these collectors? When are they coming?" "They're an ancient species that evolved billions of years ago," Hannah explained. "They see emerging intelligent life as both resource and threat. They've perfected the art of harvesting civilizations just as they reach the threshold of interstellar capability." Engineer Wu approached, holding what appeared to be a small crystal that glowed with inner light. "We can help Earth defend itself. This contains engineering principles that would have taken us centuries to discover." Jin stared at the crystal, then back at the transformed crew. "If we accept this," he said carefully, "how do we know we aren't simply trading one alien influence for another?" The question was direct, potentially offensive, but Hannah didn't seem surprised or insulted. She smiled sadly. "You don't," she answered honestly. "You'll have to trust us. The people we once were." The crystal from the Horizon arrived at Earth's Central Laboratory under the highest security measures ever implemented. 6 armed shuttles departed from Mars. Only one actually carried the artifact. The other 5 served as decoys. Even this precaution seemed almost laughable given what the Horizon crew had demonstrated, but old habits died hard. Scientists from every major nation gathered to study it. The crystal defied conventional analysis. It seemed to respond differently to each approach, revealing only fragments of its potential. After 3 weeks of intensive study, they managed to extract just one principle, a method for generating energy that made fusion reactors look like primitive campfires. This single breakthrough was enough to split Earth's leadership into opposing camps. The United Earth Alliance held an emergency session in Geneva. Representatives from all 194 member nations packed the Grand Assembly Hall. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Director Jin Park stood before them, his voice steady as he presented the findings. "What we've learned from just this single artifact represents the most significant technological leap in human history, and according to Captain Park, this is merely the beginning of what they can share." Colonel Jun of the Pan-Asian Defense Coalition rose from his seat, his face tight with controlled anger. "And you expect us to simply accept these gifts without question? Director, have you forgotten every cautionary tale in human history? The Trojan horse wasn't a myth, it was a warning." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. "The crew of the Horizon were our people," Jin countered. "Captain Park was born in Seoul. Navigator Sun graduated from Beijing University. They're not aliens. They're humans who have been changed." "That's precisely my point," Colonel Jun snapped. "They're not human anymore. They've admitted as much themselves. Whatever reshaped them could be controlling them. We could be inviting our own destruction." The debate raged for days. Some nations pledged to embrace the offered technology. Others threatened war if any neighbor did so. The fractured response threatened to tear apart decades of carefully built global cooperation. Meanwhile, a research facility was established on Lunar Base Alpha to continue studying the crystal and other small technological samples the Horizon had provided. The base operated under joint international oversight, but tensions among the scientific teams mirrored those on Earth. Dr. Min, the facility director, struggled to maintain order as rivalries intensified. "We cannot allow political disagreements to interfere with our work," she reminded her team during a particularly heated exchange. "The potential benefits of this technology, or the potential threat," interrupted Dr. Kwan, representing one of the more skeptical nations. "Have you considered that this technology might be designed to fail catastrophically once we begin implementing it widely?" Dr. Min sighed. "Every component has been tested under isolated conditions. We found no evidence of harmful programming or design." The argument might have continued, but alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Security Chief Yoon burst into the laboratory, his face pale. "We have incoming shuttles, military class, heavily armed. They're not responding to identification requests." Within minutes, the situation became clear. Admiral Du, a hardliner who had publicly condemned any cooperation with the returned Horizon, had dispatched a strike team to seize the research facility and all alien technology it contained. "This is for Earth's protection," came the transmission as armed personnel forced their way through the outer airlocks. "All research materials will be transferred to secure military facilities. Resist, and you will be detained." Dr. Min stood in the central laboratory, the crystal and other artifacts behind her. Security Chief Yoon and his small team formed a protective line, their weapons drawn. "This facility operates under international authority," Dr. Min stated firmly as Admiral Du's forces entered. "You have no jurisdiction here." The commander of the strike force raised his weapon. "Final warning. Step aside." Chief Yoon kept his gun steady. "Stand down. This doesn't need to get violent." The tension stretched to breaking point. The commander gave a signal, and his team prepared to fire. Nothing happened. Every weapon in the room simply stopped working. Triggers pulled but didn't activate firing mechanisms. Power packs went dead. Even simple mechanical sidearms refused to function. Stunned silence fell over both groups. Then, impossibly, Captain Hana Park's voice filled the room, though no communication systems were active. "We cannot allow violence over the gifts we've brought," she said, her voice somehow coming from everywhere and nowhere. "They are meant to save lives, not take them." The incident at Lunar Base Alpha became global news within hours. That evening, Captain Park appeared on screens worldwide, her message broadcasting simultaneously in every language. "We demonstrated our capabilities today by preventing bloodshed," she stated calmly. "We could have taken more direct action against those who attacked the research facility, but that is not our purpose here." Her image was perfect, unbroken by static or interference, despite attempts by several military organizations to block the transmission. "The collectors will arrive within 1 year," she continued. "We can help you prepare, or we can leave, but we cannot force you to save yourselves." Her eyes seemed to look directly at each viewer as she added, "You must decide together. A divided Earth cannot stand against what is coming. We await your collective response." The transmission ended, leaving billions to consider her words. 3 days of silence followed. No government issued statements. No media outlets offered analysis. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, one by one, leaders began to speak. First came small nations with little to lose and everything to gain. Then regional powers, setting aside old rivalries in the face of a greater threat. Finally, even the most reluctant superpowers acknowledged the inevitable. 1 week after Captain Park's address, Director Jin Park stood before a truly united Earth alliance. Every nation had signed the Emergency Cooperation Protocol, the first time in history that humanity acted with a single voice. "We accept the assistance offered by the Horizon," Jin announced formally, "and we commit to preparing Earth for the challenge ahead." Across the solar system, aboard the transformed Horizon. Captain Hannah Park received the message and allowed herself a small smile. "They've chosen to fight," she told her crew. "Now we show them how." The year that followed humanity's choice transformed Earth beyond recognition. Nations pooled resources for the first time in history. Scientists worked side by side, regardless of their countries of origin. Old enemies became partners in the desperate race to prepare for the coming threat. The Horizon crew shared their knowledge carefully, starting with defensive technologies. Engineers marveled at concepts that broke fundamental laws of physics. Materials appeared that could absorb energy without heating. Shields formed that could deflect any known weapon. Power systems emerged that drew energy from dimensions humans hadn't known existed. Captain Hannah Park oversaw it all, dividing her time between Earth and the transformed Horizon. She worked tirelessly, helping humanity understand not just the technology, but the new way of thinking required to use it. "The technology isn't separate from you," she explained to a group of pilots training on the new defense vessels. "You must feel it as part of yourself. Your intention shapes its response." 3 ships took shape in Earth's orbit, built around cores of Guardian technology. They looked strange, a blend of conventional human design and the flowing, organic patterns of the Horizon. Each could house 50 crew members and carried weapons systems that scientists still didn't fully understand. Hannah named them Defender, Protector, and Guardian. Together with the Horizon, they would form Earth's first line of defense. Training the crews proved challenging. The ships responded not just to controls but to thoughts and intentions. Pilots who expected failure experienced system shutdowns. Those who approached with confidence found the ships anticipating their commands. "Your doubt becomes reality," Tactical Officer Young told frustrated crew members. "Your belief becomes power." As the predicted date approached, Earth held its breath. Space monitoring stations extended their range to maximum, watching for the first signs of the collectors. They appeared exactly when Hannah had predicted. 7 massive ships emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space itself, beyond Mars' orbit. They dwarfed anything humans had built, each one larger than Earth's largest city. In the Space Command Center on Earth, Director Jin Park watched the monitors with a dry mouth. "They're here," he whispered, activating the global alert system. Aboard the Horizon, now positioned at the front of Earth's small defensive fleet, Captain Hannah Park stood calmly. Her transformed bridge hummed with energy as her crew prepared for humanity's most important confrontation. "Status report," she ordered. Science Officer De looked up from her station, a flowing surface that responded to her touch with ripples of light. "The collector fleet is approaching at sublight speed. Their energy signatures match the Guardian records precisely." "Are they scanning us?" Hannah asked. "Yes," Dag confirmed. "They appear confused." Hannah allowed herself a small smile. "They expected primitives with radio technology and chemical rockets," she said, "not ships that can manipulate space-time." The 4 Earth vessels moved into formation. Behind them, the planet they defended shone blue and vulnerable. The collector ships slowed their approach. A signal came through on all frequencies, a harsh, grating sound that the translation systems struggled to process. "They're demanding our surrender," Communications Officer Tay reported. "Standard procedure for them. They're offering to spare a small population as specimens if we submit without resistance." "Send our response," Hannah ordered. The message was simple: Earth does not surrender. The collectors attacked immediately. Energy beams lanced from their massive ships, weapons that had conquered hundreds of civilizations before. But instead of finding vulnerable targets, they met shields that bent space itself, redirecting the energy harmlessly away. Earth's small fleet responded. The Horizon led the attack, firing weapons that didn't destroy but rather unraveled the very structure of the collector ships' hulls. Where the beams touched, matter simply ceased to maintain cohesion. The battle that followed looked nothing like conventional space warfare. The collectors deployed technology that could shut down normal electrical systems, but Earth's ships ran on principles beyond traditional physics. They tried gravitational weapons that could crush planetary crusts, only to find the force redirected back at them. They're adapting, Tactical Officer Young warned as one of the collector ships changed its approach. Their weapons are shifting frequency. As expected, Hannah replied calmly. Implement defense pattern Echo. The 4 Earth ships suddenly seemed to flicker, as if existing in multiple places simultaneously. The collector targeting systems failed to lock onto the probability shadows. Within 2 hours, 3 collector ships had retreated, their structures compromised. 2 more followed shortly after, leaving only 2 facing Earth's defenses. The largest collector vessel launched a final desperate attack, a weapon designed to tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. The destructive wave expanded toward Earth. Containment field, Hannah ordered. All ships, converge patterns. The 4 Earth vessels moved in perfect synchronization, their systems linking to create a dimensional barrier. The collector weapon struck it and collapsed in on itself, creating a brief, brilliant flash of impossibly colored light. The last collector ships turned and fled, disappearing into the same tiers in space from which they had emerged. On Earth, celebrations erupted across every continent. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Captain Hannah Parks sent one final message to the planet she had helped save. This victory is just the beginning. The Guardians didn't just give us technology. They showed us what humanity could become. Not just travelers among the stars, but shapers of reality itself. The path is open to us now. In the months that followed, understanding grew. The Guardians had prepared humanity not just to defend itself, but to join a larger community of evolved species. The first human volunteers began the transformation process that the Horizon's crew had undergone, carefully, with full awareness of what it meant. Earth's first true interstellar vessel, the ECS Guardian, prepared for its maiden voyage beyond the solar system. Captain Hannah Park would command, with a crew that included both transformed humans and those who remained conventional. Director Jin Park stood at the observation window of the orbital station, watching the sleek vessel prepare for departure. Beside him, Mina Cho waited to say goodbye to Hannah one last time. "Do you think we'll ever understand it all?" Jin asked quietly. Mina smiled. "I don't think we're meant to. Not right away. That's the point. We grow into understanding." The Guardian's engines flared with impossible light as it prepared to depart. Humanity had taken its first steps beyond limitation. The universe waited. The end